Lila de Chavez Chronopoulos is excused for a serious health problem. Chrysanthos Pissaridis, president of ICOMOS Cyprus. I don't see him, but he is here. I invite him to come. Vulteps Sofia, former deputy minister on migration and asylum, an MP. She will come after 6:30 and participate. Zdouko Alexandra, former energy deputy minister, now the press responsible of the governing party. She will come. Alexandrakis Georgios from 4th. That's the Coastal and Marine Research Laboratory of 4th. He is connected. And Phoebe Koudouri, she is here. Please, Phoebe. Okay. Professor, Athens University of Economics and Business, Technical University of Denmark, President, World Council of Environmental and Natural Resource Economists Association, Chair to the SDSN, Global Climate Hub. She is, so many titles I have never seen. So, dear Yorgos, you are starting.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Moropoulou, dear Tonia. It is a pleasure to be the co-moderator of this panel with prominent personalities very active in the culture, among other areas, field, with a view to discussing the cultural dimension of the upcoming COP30, which will take place in Belém, in the region of the Amazon in Brazil, a very important conference of the parties under the United Nations Framework Convention on the Protection of the Climate, which we believe will enable us to reach a decision on mainstreaming climate culture in climate action, which was the aim of the discussion we had in COP28 in the Emirates, where a declaration was adopted on culture-based climate action with the creation of a group of friends. This work has not been completed, has not been followed up in Baku, although one can consider that Baku, in terms of financing, was a successful conference, as they have developed the appropriate financial tools to support the energy transition of the developing countries and to build on the work of the previous COP, which took place in Dubai. We were present in Dubai, and most of us were also present in Baku, so we have followed this work. Just to say that the aim is now to put culture high on the agenda. Unfortunately, I have read the narrative and the objectives of the designate president of Brazil, who will be chairing COP30. There is no reference to culture, but the good thing is that there are some references and some hooks on which we can do and build something. And those hooks are, I will tell you immediately, first of all, a reference to a global ethical stocktake. The idea is to consult with all the relevant stakeholders, not only of the civil society, but also the organized stakeholders, be it representatives of the academia, of the business sector, of cinema, of theater, of arts. And that's a very important element, because we would also like to mainstream in the climate cultural-based climate action, art, and all the people who are active in this field, education, art, media. So this is a very good thing, and I do believe that in this global ethical stock take, not only Europa Nostra, but our conference and other stakeholders, FIVI, we are able to send contributions in writing and to express our wish to be part of this exercise. It is some kind of public consultation and the public involvement of key stakeholders who will also be participating in a network that will be developed to that effect. And then the other good thing is the proposal for a circle of indigenous leadership. And here there is a reference.
What is it called?
Indigenous.
Proposal for indigenous?
Leadership. Yeah. This is a good thing because, as you know, in Brazil there are a lot of tribes and there is a lot of ancestral intelligence in the Amazon. And these are people who have the knowledge and, let's say, the tradition and the links with the roots of the forest. They can hear the forest, they can feel the forest, they are part of the forest, and they know how to preserve biodiversity. And cultural protection is not only tangible, it is also intangible. And this is something that we need to preserve. Therefore, the reference to the circle of indigenous leadership covers not only the autochthones of the Amazon, but also other autochthones and other people in other parts of the globe who can have a strong voice in that respect. So I do believe that these are two hooks that we can exploit. And the other thing that is missing, I have already shared with the Embassy of Brazil my views in that respect. We need a reference to circular economy as the new economic model which can enable us to promote energy transition and carbon neutrality by 2050, by changing the production and consumption patterns, by developing, let's say, a new narrative which can be combined with all these elements to which I have referred. I would like now, after this short introduction, to give the floor to Snežka. Snežka Mihajlović is the Secretary General of Europa Nostra. As I often say, she's the strong voice and the ambassador of the European culture, and not only worldwide. She will be also with us tomorrow in Delphi, where there will be events on that. I will have a short event, half an hour event with the Brazilian ambassador to discuss about COP30, and my aim is to try to introduce the cultural dimension into the COP30 process. Snežka, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this, I've seen, impressive program that you have organized these 3 days. I apologize. I don't like to, just come in and come out, but because of the schedule that I have, I could just join you for this panel. But when you and when George Kremlin say you have to be there, then I say, yes, I have to be there. And the topic is so important. In fact, and it's very symbolic that the 3 of us also are here together, because I first start by paying tribute to the Greek leadership on this topic, on the topic of culture-based climate action, because if I'm not mistaken, back in 2019 with Professor Zerefos, there was this conference in Athens, Andrew, but you also were attending then, and so we were all in Athens when it was just starting this mobilization of stakeholders Europe-wide and globally for recognition of the importance of culture and cultural heritage as a resource for a more effective climate action. And then, indeed, as George, you mentioned, the last time the 3 of us were together was in Dubai. Was at the COP28, where I think we had very big ambitions. And we did not achieve everything, but we achieved a breakthrough. We achieved a breakthrough, and I think Andrew is very much to the sort of engineer of that breakthrough, and I'm really delighted that we are together this evening in Athens at this conference, because we managed to convince the member states to create a group of friends of culture-based climate action. And indeed, they adopted the Emirates Declaration, and Andrew was very much the author of this groundbreaking text. What we did not achieve is to have this joint work decision at the COP, and we did not manage in Baku. We probably won't manage in Belém either. But we started a movement. And that is very important, and Andrew will tell us more, because he has been really one of the leading personalities of getting all of us on board as a founder and coordinator of the Climate Heritage Network. He said, Europa Nostra has to be in. You are the voice of cultural heritage in Europe, so we need to rally the European stakeholders, and then with very much, George, with you and Greek colleagues, we got our act together, in a sense, and we also, within the European Heritage Hub program, we organized during our 60th anniversary in Venice, an important event where we also launched the Venice Call to Action for culture-based climate action, and that has led to a global call and to the group of friends. But I think I would leave Andrew to, go more in details of the main messages of that call. But when we say, I think they're listening to you, George, when you mention, I think it's very interesting, that hook that you have identified for Belém, the hook of the global ethical stocktake. I think today, in general, in the world and Europe, we need more ethical consideration, and something went wrong on many fronts. And so sort of speaking also about ethics and the values, and that all what we are doing is value-based. It's something that, in fact, when we were drafting these documents, we in fact said the right wording is value-based, culture-driven. In fact, if you want to expand it. And indeed, these values, which means it is about the ethical direction or where we are going and where the world is going, is so important. And it's great if we have that opportunity. So we need really to get extremely well organized in order to try to make the best of that opportunity, because we haven't yet managed really to get the full recognition in sort of the world of the COP. And I must say, because I have been for decades dealing with the European institutions, with European Union and Council of Europe, where in the last 30 years we definitely moved a lot of mountains, and we got the European Union to recognize this sort of mainstreaming of cultural heritage across all policies of the European Union, which includes, of course, climate action and the action that the European Union is doing to implement the European Green Deal. But it's always astonishing to see how difficult it is that the big international, to move these international global institutions to recognize it. Somehow they take it for granted. Mm-hmm. And they don't think that it's worth also explicitly identifying cultural heritage as a resource, as something which, as you said, brings this ancestral intelligence, brings such an array of skills, important skill, which can teach us to live in a more sustainable way, and also which also can help us. The cultural heritage sites are also fantastic ambassadors, because all those visitors to the sites could be inspired and encouraged to be much more engaged in cultural climate action, because we need the governments to do that, but we need every single individual, every single organization, civil society organization, community to be engaged. So in that sense, cultural heritage sites that are such, Acropolis, imagine if all these people coming there would be stimulated to do that. So we can do more, and we should do more. And with Europa Nostra, I can only say that we are committed. We are definitely committed, together with the wider network of the European Heritage Alliance and European Heritage Hub, which I already mentioned, to contribute to rallying the support of the European Union institutions and member states. Because even if we do not manage to get in the formula and the COP, the European Union could lead by example. And there we need Greece. We need Greek leadership. We need other countries, in particular Mediterranean countries. I have the feeling that the southern countries within the European Union are much more, first of all, because it's happening already, the climate change is so dramatically happening that they are more understanding that this mobilization is somehow more pressing in these countries. And we know that the tiny countries, but very sort of vocal, the Malta and Cyprus, were very much our allies in Dubai and also in Baku. So we will do that. We will do that as part of our engagement with the European Union. For a number of years, since 2019, since the adoption of the European Green Deal, everybody was speaking about all sorts of deals. And so that's where we coined also the cultural deal for Europe, that we need a cultural deal for Europe, and that whole the sustainability issues and linking with climate action is part of that cultural deal for Europe and the bridge between the Green Deal and a cultural deal. Now, in this new commission that started in December last year, we are very happy that we believe a little bit as part of our lobbying at the European Union level. The President, Ursula von der Leyen, gave the task to the Commissioner in charge of culture to develop a cultural compass that would somehow guide and inspire all European policies. And we are already very sort of in dialogue with the Commissioner Mikalev, who comes from Malta, on the preparation of that cultural compass. And it's obvious that it's now an instrument that will be ideal to have a strong chapter on culture-based climate action. And that European Union can at least, while waiting to have the COP, and then hopefully also European Union collectively at the COP, will be able, with this cultural compass, to sort of show the way forward. And I think we all, especially the Europeans, Greece, other countries, all the stakeholders, the academic world, we need to orchestrate that mobilization in order to make sure, I have no doubt that we will manage within the cultural compass. I don't think that we will have any resistance for that, especially because in the EU also they had their own OMC report on heritage and climate action. But then we need to also make the best of the Mondia Cult meeting that will take place at the end of September in Barcelona, and make sure that there sort of somehow align all those various important international frameworks in order that hopefully when we come to Belém, George, then that somehow in that stock take on ethics, we will also make sure that there is an important paragraph on culture-based climate action. So I would say, this is what I can say. All together, we know in what world and Europe we're living. We are talking much more, it's difficult to talk about climate action when war is all around, and when European Union is going to invest trillions in defense and in the rearming Europe. So we somehow have to strengthen our voice in order to not to be forgotten, and to also recall that there is, in spite of all the security consideration, that there is also something like a climate change and climate action that is also very much a security issue, and that we should not forget the important, vital role of cultural heritage for our society and as a tool for climate action.
Great. Before Tonia takes the floor, let me first of all thank you. It is always a pleasure to listen to Snežka. She can speak for hours. It's always passionate, and you can listen to her without losing interest. I should have started by saying that with Tonya, we were schoolmates. She was the best of our year. I was very naughty at that time where I was young. She was always serious from that age, and she's always the best. Pioneering.
I was a leader of 20 kids playing in the grounds around. So I was very serious.
Yes, indeed. So, and I would like to thank her and to congratulate her because this international conference is now becoming an institution. It is the 4th edition, and it is really a very high-level one with credentials on the issues that Tonya handles in the best possible way. We were both in Rhodes. Rhodes is a cultural heritage. We have the ancient city of Rhodes, which is one of the most prominent UNESCO monuments. And Tonya did a lot to protect it in that respect. And before Tonya takes the floor, let me add that when you read the letter and the mission statement of the president of the COP, the Brazilian president of the COP, you will see that the references to the ethical dimension, to the culture, to the solidarity, to human values are very strong. And this is something which is common to Brazilian culture. And the motto of COP30 will be the ancestral word mutirao, which is a word meaning cooperation, common understanding, common vision, solidarity, etc., which is a word that they want also to highlight and to expand as a motto at the level of the COP. So I'm really confident that this, let me call it a human and humanitarian approach, to which also Snežka has referred, will be very strongly present in a period where we are under drill, baby drill, where we are in a period where, as Snežka said, the wars continue, and last but not least, the United States have withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. We will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement without the United States, and this is really a pity. The efforts need to be much more important to fill the gap that will be created, not only because of the absence of the United States, but also because of the spillover effect of what is happening because of the new administration and the way they behave in terms of stock exchanges, in terms of costs, and last but not least, I'm also speaking a lot, sorry. The amounts available for the transition will be less. Because if you now ask countries in a period of new economic crisis, of the crisis of the stock exchanges to put more money on climate, while climate is not on the agenda anymore of the United States, I believe that this will be to some extent a lost case. But I don't want to be pessimistic. I stop here. Tonya, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yorgos. Thank you for coming to this panel and to this conference. Is the 4th transdisciplinary multispectral modeling and multilateral cooperation for preservation of cultural heritage conference. It is based on the innovative and transdisciplinary methodology used for preserving emblematic monuments like the Tomb of Christ, Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Virgin Mary Varnakova in Fokis, and other monuments. And our major motto is that if we do not sustain a culture among us, a cultural alliance to preserve cultural heritage the sustainability of the world is not given. So it's under demand. And why not to have the call of Athens for a climate-based action on culture? Why not? It's the proper place, and we can do it. We don't need any governmental decision, intergovernmental, etc. This panel, this conference, which is recognized globally, and we can make the call of Athens for climate-based cultural actions. My presentation concerns actually the strategy that George Kremlis pointed out, the strategy for a development based on cultural heritage, reuse, rehabilitation, preservation, which will take us to another end. Because up to now, we are speaking on reducing carbon dioxide and emissions. Welcome to Zdouko Alexandra. Please join us, Alexandra, to the podium. Yes, yes, yes. So, permit me to continue. We have to go in depth. Instead of measures, and Sofia Vultepsi, an MP, former minister, please join us to the podium. So instead of just mitigating, of just reducing the CO emissions in order to become greener, we can go for what the Green Deal, the Green and Blue Deal says about a development that will mitigate the actual causes of the climate crisis. And in order to do that, we cannot be passive. We should be more energetic and more aggressive, I would say, in a way that we will go to another pattern of development that should be softer and in that way greener and more blue. That has to use cultural heritage and environmental assets. In this direction, we will have less cost-effective, energy-consuming, manpower-consuming development pattern that will lead us to a softer development. I will just pass through some examples. The fact that by reusing in the development process environmental and heritage assets like in small islands or in mountainous areas shows a dispersion and a density that might justify a development result, a development outcome, takes us in the other scale, the scale of historic cities, to go to a higher level of concentration of assets and multiply the development outcome. That means we can, after these examples, we have worked out and show that they might bring social and economic return to this design. So, I don't know what is this. Sorry. Okay, you are excused. It shows to us that we can go to another strategy for development based on this major cultural heritage resource, acting as a resource to development. But this resource cannot be reused under any terms. And in the terms of today, the terms of conflicts and war, the multilateral cooperation under which we succeeded to achieve results in the Holy Edicule rehabilitation in the open city of Jerusalem with the two people of Israeli and Palestinian states, with the three religions of Judaism, Muslim religious, and of course all the dogmas of the Christian community, or in Istanbul for Hagia Sophia, in conflict with our friend people, Turkish people, but capable to develop the first cultural agreement, which was cancelled by the recent president when he decided unilaterally to use Hagia Sophia as a mosque. That shows that we cannot abandon policies for mutual understanding and common action. The protocol agreement for Hagia Sophia between National Technical University of Athens, Princeton University, Bogazici University, Kandili Observatory brought us to the result that we saved Hagia Sophia from the 1999 earthquake of 7.4. And the historic decision of the three Christian leaders that permitted us, after 2 centuries, to start working and talk to the people of humanity, 3 billion people with National Geographic when we were performing this work, they say to us that humanity stays with us. This social and political alliance we need in order to use and reuse cultural heritage as a development resource is here, because everybody is capable and needs to talk to the inner language of the values of our monuments. So that means that if we go to COP and propose a proper culture-based climate action program based on these facts that express not only a very good paragraph, but a social and political alliance that corresponds to billions of people in humanity, we can go on, because who will go against? That's my question. And with that, permit me to remind as well to the Greeks that are here that we need your signature for the European Partnership for Resilient Cultural Heritage at the level of EU. And to all the other, come to sign the Athens call for a climate-based cultural action. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite my friend Alexandra Zdoukou, former Minister, Deputy Minister of Energy. Today she is the press representative of the governing party of New Democracy. We need your political voice, Alexandra. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Let me say hello to all dear panelists and welcome those who came from abroad. I have to admit, Ms. Moropoulou, that I feel a little bit awkward indeed today, first of all, because my heart is closely connected to all the issues we dealt with within the Ministry of Environment and Energy. I believe that it is an area where I think many interesting things have happened in the past 6 years in energy, environment, and climate issues. And I think that the topic you developed is very closely connected to all these broad discussion about how we can preserve indeed cultural heritage and at the same time combine it with climate issues. And I was saying I'm awkward. It's awkward because actually it's the very first public, I would say, appearance in my new role as a spokesperson of new, yes, anyway, of New Democracy, and yeah, I have to get used to this role where I want to serve it with all my strength, all the effort, and I feel very happy that Ms. Vultepsi is here. You can advise me, I think, of a lot of things, but I really wanted to come today here for 2 simple reasons. First of all, because I keep my promises, and I wanted to honor this invitation of Ms. Moropoulou, who is a good friend of mine, but apart from a good friend, she carries with her, I believe, a long technical, scientific experience and knowledge. And thank you very much, Ms. Moropoulou. And second, because I think this topic, which I don't know it very well, Mr. Kremlis and all you deal with it a lot of years, and I listen to you with great attention every time that you raise this issue and you talk about the challenges of these issues. I think that this topic, culture-based climate action, it means a lot. And this goes, beyond energy or environment. So I will start with a simple thought. When we talk about climate change, usually the focus is often obviously on energy, it's focused on technology, emissions, policy, these kind of stuff. But I strongly believe that climate change also affects our people, our history, our heritage, of course, and as you showed in your PowerPoint, cultural landmarks. So addressing climate change, I think, isn't just about protecting our future, but it's about preserving our past. And why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because I believe that we have so much to learn from one another and from our ancestors. And I would also connect, I think, the challenge of uncovering the ancestral wisdom. I think it's just as important as artificial intelligence is, because what we learn actually from the past, I think, is just as valuable as the technology we build for the future. Unfortunately, I think that until recently, this aspect was often overlooked. It was overlooked compared to other climate-related challenges like technological innovation and finance. And I also think that long before we spoke of a climate crisis, the signs were evident. Remember back to 80s and 90s, the concerns about the Parthenon sculptures, the damage caused by air pollution, all this stuff. And all these early warnings showed, obviously, how environmental issues can threaten our cultural treasures. But our government led by Kyriakos Mitsotakis, recognized this issue quite early, I would say, and he has committed to protecting Greece's cultural and natural heritage since the start of this government's term. For those you remember, back in 2019, George Kremlis knows very well about that. You were one of the mentors, I would say. Greece took a bold step by launching an international initiative to protect cultural and natural heritage from climate change. And this effort, as you know, quickly managed to gain global support, including backing from United Nations Secretary General, by UNESCO, by the World Meteorological Organization, if I remember well, the Council of Europe, over 100 UN member states. And to turn this vision into action, we then created the so-called flexible mechanism, which was a collaborative team made up of representatives from Greece, UNESCO, UN Framework Convention. And I think that our mission is simple, but it's powerful, I would say, to connect actually scientific knowledge with practical tools for climate adaptation and mitigation. I think that these can help us make smarter decisions if we want to safeguard the cultural and natural heritage. And I'm also sure that Mr. Kremlis and also Ms. Koudouri, who I see here, they remember the powerful message that was sent from COP29 in Baku last November, that climate emergency is actually a cultural emergency. And this dialogue, of course, reinforced the need to integrate culture into global climate strategies and build on the momentum from COP28, where, if you remember, over 20 countries, including Greece, adopted the, what it was named, Emirates, I remember, the Emirates Declaration on Culture-Based Climate Action. And I think that this was a very clear acknowledgement that culture is crucial to shape climate solutions and influencing how we approach sustainability. My last point is that climate change, I think, is bringing obviously even more threats to our cultural landmarks. Tonya showed a couple of pictures there. We have extreme heat, we have wildfires, we have war, we have flooding, we have earthquakes, even dry weather, I would say. So all our cultural monuments and sites are obviously under an increasing threat, and we must act to protect them. We have a couple of examples. Years ago, in 2007, in Olympia, for example, or Mykonos, or other iconic sites, Vergina, Delphi. But I think beyond Greece, the Mediterranean, which is actually one of the most vulnerable regions on Earth, is also feeling the effects as well. And on my way here, I read a study from 2021 in Nature, which I think that was impressive. 86% of UNESCO World Heritage sites in the Mediterranean, it shows that they are at risk. It's quite a huge number, 86%. George can share more about this. And also that study, what I saw is that it assessed 244 UNESCO sites in the Mediterranean, many of them ancient monuments, and the results are quite alarming. 35 sites are at very high risk, 12 sites are in extreme danger, and of course, if this is not a wake-up call that we must protect our cultural heritage, what is it? There are many ways we can make a real difference. For newer, let's say, monuments, we can explore ways to make them models, I would say, of upgrades if we want to ensure that they are protected and resilient for future generations. I also believe, to put some energy here, that renewable energy as well, wind and solar, I think they can play also a huge role in, why is that? In reducing our carbon footprint and also fighting climate change. But it's not just about clean energy. We must also respect nature, cultural heritage. Finally, one issue that I see it also important is that we must focus also on helping communities to adapt to climate change. How? By using also local knowledge and cultural practices. This means providing financial and technical support, helping people build their skills, creating also policies that value culture, diversity, social unity, all these things. Finally, we must not forget vulnerable people as well, like women, children, those with disabilities. By also, they can also bring their knowledge and needs. This will not only protect, I would say, natural and cultural heritage, but it will also help everyone. That's why I'm mentioning vulnerable people as well. It will help everyone face climate challenges together. And we also discussed these things at the 9th Oceans Conference, where also I think there you put this issue at a high priority. So I think I will stop here. Congratulations. This is a very important topic. Greece has every interest, I would say, not just to continue this discussion about protecting cultural heritage and also at the same time meet climate goals. We have a very rich history in Greece. At the same time, we want to be pioneers in meeting climate goals, and somehow we should marry this stuff and I think implement quite bold policies. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Doukou, and I wish you to be strong in this very effort you are undertaking.
I'll try.
I have the pleasure now. Okay.
Okay, I would also like to thank Alexandra. She has complemented my speech by referring to the Greek initiative at United Nations level. I am not highlighting very much this baby of mine, and I do believe that in relation to the two proposals of Tonia, you were not here when she delivered her speech, for an Athens declaration, which was the aim of our initiative, but which unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, has not happened, and also the other proposal of Tonia. I do believe that we can now develop the Greek initiative not only as a top-down, but also as a bottom-up initiative, starting from the civil society, from the stakeholders, and making the link with what Alexandra has mentioned. Just to say that Alexandra, for me, was the best deputy minister for energy that we had. We already miss her. I underline this. And of course, we already miss Sofia Vultepsi, who was our prominent deputy minister for migration, a very difficult portfolio. Both portfolios were difficult, but migration even more difficult. And I must say that Sofia was extremely successful. I hope now that as a member of parliament, you have a little bit more relaxed, although you are still very active as you have the historic knowledge of this portfolio. So I will give the floor to Sofia, just to say that I have to leave. I will probably leave with the permission of Tonya before the end of this panel, because I have to drive to Delphi tonight.
You go today, I go
Yes,
tomorrow.
tomorrow I have an early appointment with the Bulgarian minister, President of the Republic. So I need to be there. So with your permission, I will listen also to Andrew, and then.
We have at 7:30 another panel on Bauhaus.
But it is already
So
7.
I will.
It's already 7.
Yes, I will call for your brief and very strong points. And I'm sure that, Sophia, your voice won't ever be seized.
Thank you very much, Tonya, and congratulations for the new topic, important in our very difficult geopolitical era. And thank you, George. Yes, I don't know if somebody misses me as Deputy Minister of Migration, but this is something that, it never ends. So I'm going to speak a little bit with my old role, like Alexandra. Of course, since I've been the first woman spokesperson as for a government, I have to whisper to her some words there. If I can do something public, is you just think, if whenever you have a problem, you do what I did when I was at office. Yeah, I was thinking at Margaret Thatcher, Iron Lady, who she also was very criticized because she was a woman, and she used to say, even if you see me walk on Tamesis, you'll accuse me that I don't know how to swim. so go on. Congratulations. So this discussion, of course, the topic that Tonya chose for our meeting is about climate and culture. And experience has shown that nowadays the combination of climate change, wars, and religious fanaticism and radicalization has had a devastating effect on the preservation of the world's cultural heritage. Sorry. In 2023, we had the highest number of conflicts since 1946. And you must know also that the last 3 years have been the most violent of the last 3 decades. In Iraq, for example, conflicts over water are frequent, and the dried up lakes and rivers used by fishermen have been abandoned since 2022. In Iran, water shortages have led to tensions with neighboring countries, and poor harvests have caused food prices to rise. This is how the invisible climate migrants are created. Every war involves many internal wars. A war within the war is the war of propaganda, for example. Another linked to that of propaganda is a war on culture. In all wars, we witness a systematic attempt to destroy cultural monuments. War does not only destroy countries and people, it also destroys the cultural fabric. It aims to break the historical and cultural continuity of the occupied nation, destroying the morale of people by destroying national cultural memory. From antiquity to World War II and the desecration and the Nazi desecration and stealing of Greek archaeological cultural treasures. It is no accident that the Parthenon was used by German soldiers as a urinal. Propaganda is like art. You don't have to respect the truth, Joseph Goebbels used to say. We saw it in 2015 with the destruction of important antiquities and archaeological treasures by ISIS in Iraq and Syria, when UNESCO called it cultural cleansing and a war crime. We saw it in the attacks on the Bardo Museum in Tunisia, the deliberate destruction of Mosul Museum, the destruction of valuable libraries. According to UNESCO, the war in Ukraine has caused 3.5 billion worth of damage to cultural heritage. Among them are monuments belonging to the world cultural heritage. So, there is no doubt that bigotry and hatred destroy entire civilization. And now, climate change. People are being forced to leave their homes in search of better climatic conditions without floods, heat waves, and other climatic disasters, leaving their own cultural monuments at the mercy of destruction. As natural disasters display 10 times as many people as wars, it is expected that in the next 30 years, some 1.2 billion environmental migrants will be displaced. There are currently 300 micro-contracts wars around the world to control water. 30 years ago, Ismail Serageldin, then Vice President of the World Bank, prophesied that the next wars would not be over oil, but over water. It seems that the time has come to verify his theory. Today, 1 billion people on the planet do not have access to clean water, a scarce and vital resource that will become scarcer as the world population and drought increase. It is estimated that in the next decade, global demand for water will increase by 40%, while resources are diminishing. According to the UN, 5 billion people could be affected by water scarcity. According to the Pacific Institute, as of 2020, 140 water conflicts have already erupted around the world. Since the earliest known water war in Mesopotamia, 4,500 years ago, a total of 1,300 conflicts have broken out. And so, the cycle of destruction comes full cycle: climate, wars, destruction of the world's cultural heritage. I have to say that the refugees who arrive here, who arrive in Europe, have not only seen their own culture destroyed, they have probably instilled in some of them a hatred for culture or the others. And that is something that we must fight, armed with the protection of the environment and culture. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Sofia, for this thorough presentation and for the data that you have provided. I do believe that this evidence is always very important, and for making the links between war, culture, and climate migration. Because
In the hat of journalism.
yes, because
I change hats.
absolutely, you can use several hats. It is true that wars trigger migration, and climate triggers climate migration, and one complements the other and makes migration problem even more important. I was also thinking that normally a climate migrant, and there is no acknowledgement of the status yet of climate migrant, should lead to asylum rights, but this is another discussion for another panel. Listening to you, I was thinking that in the conclusions of COP30, we need also to make a reference to the impacts of the wars on climate heritage. This is extremely important. Professor Moropoulou has referred to this. Alexandra, to you have more referred to this. I do believe that this is extremely important. There is currently a moratorium between Ukraine and Russia not to hit energy installations, which is not respected, but at least for cultural heritage, and we know that the center of Odessa was hit the other day, and the Bristol Hotel, which is the equivalent of Grand Bretagne. I was planned to visit Odessa the day after, and the day before, Bristol Hotel was hit and almost destroyed. So, and we were pioneers in having the historic center of Odessa acknowledged as a cultural heritage, a world heritage by UNESCO, and it is really endangered.
Thank you. So we now pass to the men of the table. The only woman that will be left is Phoebe Koudouri to act as a rapporteur at the end. So I would like to ask Andrew Potts to take his part.
Well, thank you, Professor Moropoulou. I'm quite humbled and honored to be introduced by such distinguished personality as Professor Moropoulou and Professor Kremlis, and congratulations on the organization of this excellent conference. I'm also very happy to be back in Greece. I know personally of the leadership of Greece on the issue of climate change and cultural heritage. I had the pleasure of being in Athens in 2019 for the launch of the Greek initiative on climate change and cultural heritage. It's also a little bit of a reunion, as was said, for Snezhka and George. And for me, we were at COP28 in Dubai together, and I remember we were cheering when Prime Minister Mitsotakis was one of the only, maybe the only heads of state to use the opportunity of the World Leader Forum at COP28 to mention cultural heritage when he made his famous line, echoed, I think, by Alexandra just now, about the need for both artificial intelligence and ancestral intelligence in tackling climate change. And now I'm happy to be here today. This topic of culture-based climate action has only become more urgent since we were together, George, in 2019 here in Athens. We know that the world remains dangerously off course to meeting the ambitions of the Paris Agreement. The Copernicus Global Climate Highlights report that came out a few months ago confirmed that 2024 is the warmest year on record. Also confirmed that in 2024 we broke the 1.5 degree barrier. For the year was recorded that we heated the planet more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. And of course, you know the aim of the Paris Agreement is to hold global warming to 1.5 degrees. Now, last year was only 1 year, we'll see, but a dangerous indication that we will surpass the 1.5 mark. There continues to be analysis, climate science, on why the world is failing to deliver on its climate pledges, and increasingly, the climate scientists agree with the critique that one of the problems is that climate planning and policy use only a narrow range of solutions, by and large, very much focused on technocratic and market-based solutions, supply-side solutions at the expense of demand-side solutions and solutions that deal with matters that are less easily quantified. Ethical matters, social matters. These are largely excluded from climate planning and policy. And maybe worst of all, climate policy largely does not have a goal of showing people, helping them imagine what a post-carbon, just, climate-resilient future might look like. And so this leads us to culture and heritage, which is an obvious way to fill this gap in climate planning and policy. That's why in 2019, there was launched a network called the Climate Heritage Network with the goal of helping to unlock the power of culture from arts to heritage to help people imagine and realize low-carbon, just, climate-resilient futures. Several of the founding members of the Climate Heritage Network are in the room. Europa Nostra, of course, ICOMOS, the Organization of World Heritage Cities, so thank you to those groups. The CHN tried to bring the message that culture and heritage are relevant to every dimension of climate action, adaptation, mitigation, addressing loss and damage, action for climate empowerment. Yes, the positive side of culture, but also the problems. Climate change is a cultural problem. It was caused by cultural values of extractivism and exploitation and waste and consumption. And so whether it's tackling the cultural values that gave us anthropogenic climate change or the cultural values that are the solution to the climate crisis, in both cases, culture and heritage are critical to solving climate change. And so the CHN tried to bring this message at local scale, but also at international policy scale, and to embed culture and heritage in international climate policy and finance. And in this, we were not particularly successful. And what we realized is we really needed the leadership of national governments, of member states, to help take these decisions, particularly at the UN Climate Agency, at the UN FCCC. And so we turned our attention to that, and as George has already said, and Alexandra too, at COP28 there was launched the Group of Friends of Culture-Based Climate Action. This is a group of national governments who have committed to working to embed culture in climate policy. And they issued, as was already said, the Emirate Declaration on Culture-Based Climate Action, and I want to read to you a sentence from that declaration. It says, "We national governments stress that any path to fully achieving the long-term goals of the Paris Agreement, including those related to mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation for loss and damage, and in promoting climate-resilient sustainable development, must include a focus on cultural heritage, arts, and creative industries, and the socio-cultural enabling conditions for transformative climate action." Must. So this was subscribed to by almost 35 national governments meeting at a COP. So that was extraordinary. And from that meeting in Dubai came a plan to embed culture systemically in climate policy. And one problem that we have is that of the major enabling conditions for transformative climate action recognized by climate science, like climate finance, like technology, sociocultural is the only dimension that is not referenced at all in the Paris Agreement. And so we lack a legal basis. The UNFCCC says they lack a legal basis for taking on board culture at the same level as these other enablers. So with the group of friends, with these national governments, we decided to seek a political solution, a legal solution, and ask the COP to adopt a resolution that would give a mandate to the UNFCCC to incorporate culture into all its modalities, into the subsidiary body on implementation, into the subsidiary body on science and technological advice, the SUBSTA, into the Nairobi Work Program on adaptation, into the Warsaw Mechanism on loss and damage. And that was adopted as a goal of the group of friends. Meanwhile, we launched a global campaign of civil society and other non-governmental actors to support this political outcome. 75 organizations around the world were the founding members of the global call to put arts, culture, and heritage at the heart of climate action, including ones in this room and across Greece and elsewhere. That is where things stand today, and we have not succeeded in getting tabled this idea or even sort of smaller ideas that would be put us on the road to that, like simply having an expert meeting of the UNFCCC on culture. And so we have to reinvigorate our efforts in this regard. At COP29 in Baku, a number of national governments endorsed this political agenda for a decision that would give a legal basis for incorporating culture into the modalities of the UN. Spain, Malta, Cyprus, Jordan. Now, I will say, despite the leadership, the undoubted leadership of Greece on all of these matters, the Greek government, and unless I'm wrong, did not join this yet. And so an action that could easily be taken by Greek colleagues now is to secure the endorsement of the Greek government for this. We may have, Snezhka alluded to this, we may have missed the chance now to have this tabled in Baku. It's not teed up for the intersessional meeting in Bonn in June, where the agenda for Baku will be fixed. But we stay on this till we get it done. Belém, yeah, till we get it done. I want to conclude just by mentioning that even while we seek a systemic solution that would transversally embed culture across all the modalities of climate policy and planning, there are certain specific processes where we have been successful and which are proceeding, and I want to in 1 minute mention two of them, and then I'm done. The first is that the Paris Agreement includes what's called the Global Goal on Adaptation, which is a global goal to increase ambition to achieve climate adaptation. And at COP28, the framework for taking forward this global goal on adaptation was adopted, called the UAM Global Framework for Climate Resilience. That establishes 7 thematic priorities for adaptation for the world, for national governments. And most of them are what you would expect. Adapt food systems, adapt water systems. But the 7th global priority is to adapt heritage sites and cultural practices. And so the elaboration of the Global Goal on Adaptation framework is the bright spot. It is the very most success we have had. And at COP30, national governments will be asked to adopt indicators for measuring adaptation progress as part of something called the UAE Belém Work Program on Adaptation Indicators, including indicators for measuring progress on adapting heritage sites and cultural practices to climate change. Draft indicators will be approved in Bonn in June, go to Belém. So this is a huge item to watch. And the last thing I say is the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In 2021, the IPCC, UNESCO, and ICOMOS hosted a meeting to look at how to mainstream heritage science into climate science. And that produced a report. I'm glad to say that last month, when the IPCC announced the outlines for the AR7, the 7th Global Assessment Report, the next that will assess climate change for the planet for the rest of the decade, those outlines have massively increased the treatment of culture and heritage in the AR7 products. This is a big victory. Now those reports have to be written over the next 4 years, and April 17th is the deadline for experts to be nominated as authors and reviewers in the AR7 cycle. It's fine to get heritage in the outline, but unless we have heritage experts as authors, that promise won't be realized. So I would encourage each of you to ask your national governments to nominate you as an author or reviewer in the AR7 cycle. And I particularly am happy to make this message here because I think heritage science truly can be a bridge between culture and climate scientists. And I know many of you are heritage scientists, and I think the role you have to play is extraordinary. And I finish with that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if I can say, it is obvious that Andrew has the knowledge, the historic knowledge of the COPs and of the processes, and moreover, he has the ideas, and he has provided us with solutions and guidance on how to proceed, which is extremely useful. There have been missed opportunities, but we can still catch up, and I think that on the Greek side, I was successful in convincing Spain to be on board, but I didn't manage to convince my own country. But as I say, hope dies at the end, and we need to reinvigorate this important process. And
Can I
would
just
like,
also, because
Tonya,
to compliment
Of course,
Greece also, once again, pay tribute to the Greek, because thanks also to the support of Greece, during the Hungarian presidency of the European Union last year, we managed to obtain in the conclusions of the Council of Ministers of the European Union, adopted just before the COP in Baku, this Chapter 52 that for the very first time recognizing the relevance of culture and cultural heritage for climate action and for combating climate change. And so I think we can really, and thank, again, Greece helped us, the Hungarian presidency as well, and I think we should be now building within the European Union that chapter and sort of the mandate of the European Union for Belém.
Thank you.
Just a second, Tonya. Thank you for reminding this. Indeed, Greece has been a pioneer on all these issues, and we will continue in that respect. There was one missed opportunity, but we can catch up. Tonya, I wanted to propose, and Andrew has suggested that in the conclusions of your conference, we can highlight those important elements, the Athens Declaration, which is the most important one, the bottom-up process, and all the ideas to which Andrew has referred. I do believe that they are important, including also the war, the impacts of the war on cultural heritage. And last but not least, adaptation is very important. There is a strong chapter on the agenda on adaptation. What is important is to make cultural heritage resilient to climate change. And to do this, we need to use artificial intelligence. Of course, ancestral intelligence is also very useful to monitor, first of all, to identify the state of play, use medical devices to find out how sick the patient is, the Acropolis, the other cultural heritage monument, and then how we can protect them throughout the climate impacts, which are not only floods, wildfires, atmospheric pollution, to which Alexandra has referred, and atmospheric pollution because of war and because of the chemicals that are triggered because of the war is becoming more and more important, not only for human health, but also for our cultural heritage.
We have enough of these points pointed out by the other panels. But what is most important is to have a very clear Athens Declaration considering all of these issues towards a culture-based climate action. Thank you, Andrew. We can pass now to Chrysanthos Pissaridis, President of ICOMOS Cyprus.
Dear Deputy Minister, Mr. Kremlis, distinguished guest, dear friend, Professor Antonia Morboulou, it's better here. On behalf of ICOMOS Cyprus and the Technical Chamber of Cyprus, Technical Scientific Chamber of Cyprus, it's an honor to be here with you in this prestigious conference and share with you our views and opinions. How can I change the slides?
Do you have a clicker somewhere? Maybe you can go up on the podium. If you want to change that.
Μπροστά πίσω.
Μπροστά και το από κάτω πίσω.
Okay. Και πού δείχνω πίσω?
Όχι, μπροστά.
Okay. Πού να δείχνω? Δεν αλλάζει. Αν δεν δουλεύει, ας το... Το κεντρικό. Okay, technical issues. So I will pass forward what is ICOMOS because we are all here specialists and I will not pass again and explain you what it's about. And I will go forward to the ICOMOS working groups. Climate Actions Working Group of ICOMOS, established in 2016 as the ICOMOS Climate Change and Heritage Working Group, and was initially formed to address three specific tasks. The first one is develop and coordinate ICOMOS inputs into the update of the 2007 World Heritage Committee policy documents on the impacts of climate change on World Heritage properties. Second, develop a draft global climate change organizational engagement program from ICOMOS. And third, coordinating the drafting of a new ICOMOS charter on climate change and heritage. In 2019, the working group published The Future of Our Past, Engaging Cultural Heritage in Climate Action. The working group has now entered a new phase. In 2020, the ICOMOS General Assembly and declared climate and ecological emergency. This called for urgent collective action by all relevant actors to safeguard cultural and natural heritage from climate change, and calls on all the ICOMOS community to implement heritage responses to climate change. You can also see the screen, so I will pass some issues. The Climate Action Working Group has two objectives to help meet this aim. These are, the first one, the establishment of an online resource portal or one-stop shop for the ICOMOS and wider heritage community, which will contain thematic resources, including examples of best practice, relevant policies and guidance, and case studies of stories from around the world. Second, to create an engagement plan to communicate, raise awareness and literacy, and promote action amongst the ICOMOS community. The Heritage on the Edge project, the CVI Africa project, the international co-sponsored meeting on culture, heritage, and climate change, and what is new from 2024 to 2027. ICOMOS is pleased to announce that Ave Paulus has been appointed as the new ICOMOS focal point to coordinate the Climate Action Working Group for the period 2024 and 2027. Climate Action Working Group, Climate Justice and Equity Toolkit, lie at the heart of climate action and should be the foundation of our responses in the heritage sector. This toolkit provides an interview of the topic alongside some best practice examples and suggested actions and activities for ICOMOS, national and scientific committees. Heritage, Climate, Justice and Equity Guide. This guide has been created by the Climate Action Working Group and is aimed at ICOMOS members, national and international scientific committees, using case studies provided by the ICOMOS community and address the topic of climate justice and equity under the following headings. What is the problem? Why does it matter? How can ICOMOS address climate injustice and inequity? What can we do now, if we can do something? These are some statements and resources. I will not. I will pass them, and relevant ICOMOS events and workshops. You can see them. I will maybe, if I can go on, maybe I can comment the Europa Nostra, the European Cultural Heritage and Green Paper by Europa Nostra and proposed by the ICOMOS Climate Action Working Group. Tackling climate, of course, all the others are important, but the time is limited, and we're at the end of the session. Is in this generation defining the task, and Europe's rich and diverse cultural heritage can help. To help lead the way in March 2021, Heritage, Climate and Financial Organizations and experts launched the European Cultural Heritage Green Paper, putting Europe's shared heritage at the head of European Green Deal. The paper correlates the contribution of cultural heritage to all key areas of the European Green Deal, including green finance and the just transition. Where I have to point? No, maybe I have to back. And of course, other issues like preservation, stability, and equity, World Heritage Catalysis, and Heritage at Risk. That's going on every year with ICOMOS. Now I will like to pass to National Strategy on Adaptation to Climate Change of Cyprus of 2025 to 2050, and done lately, recently in February 2025. The rise of the average global temperatures is an undisputed fact as the wider effects it poses on the Earth's climate system. This is further reinforced by the fact that 2024 emerged as the hottest year ever since record-keeping began in the late 19th century. In addition, weather extremes, the alteration of extended periods of droughts and heavy rainfall, wildfires, water scarcity, severe heat waves, the loss of biodiversity, and the resulting impacts on human health, infrastructure, and natural resources constitute grave climate-related hazards which are increased in frequency and intensity. The current global increase in climate-induced extreme weather events poses a major, I'm sorry for my English, to the environment, economic growth and social development and viability, causing infrastructure damage, building transportation, energy production and water supply, particularly in densely populated and vulnerable regions like us, like the Mediterranean. Rising sea levels make things even worse, leading to increased flooding and erosion, damage to property and infrastructures, as well as a lot of habitat for plants and animals. The situation calls for a more strategic and longer-term spatial planning approach to be adopted, both in land and coastal areas, addressing transport, regional industry, tourism, and energy issues. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chrysanthos. You are always to the point, and you participate with activities, not only with presentations. Thank you, Cyprus.
Of course, Tonya, I have more, but I have seen.
Thank you.
I changed
we are
in can
at
be.
the edge of time. Thank you very much. I have to invite if Giorgos Alexandrakis is still online for a brief statement. Giorgos is representing Fourth, Crete, the Coastal Mechanics Laboratory and Marine Research. You are having the floor for a brief statement.
Thanks a lot. I have made a very small presentation, but firstly I would like to say that I'm very sorry that I could not be there for administrative reasons, as I'm currently traveling. Since I saw the panel, I saw that all the general and very important things would be covered. I decided to have a little example of how we can initiate actions, including culture and use culture in climate actions. So as the lab is working on the coastal areas, we have decided, we have several examples of coastal heritage sites that are endangered in various places in Greece, and especially in Crete, that we are working on. One major thing that also Mr. Potts mentioned is that how we get to the planning to solutions, and especially solutions that have to be accepted from the community, to include social dimension in it, and in order to be successful. All these points that are now being shown have been raised from the previous speakers, and also applied to the coastal areas. But in this slide, the important thing is that we can see that cultural heritage can also use culture in order to promote these solutions. Another thing is that also we can use culture in order to reconstruct and see how things were before climate change, or even and to make a scenario, or see where we can what our objects can be in planning these solutions. So this circle that is commonly used, that we can use nature archives, environment, and social dimensions to see how the environment was, to have data from archaeology, and then see how this affected, how the environment has been affected through climate change, and then do the climate modeling, and also promote climate literacy, ocean literacy, in order to have a successful solutions. During this search of us, we came across with a team with University of Athens that is using art to promote climate actions, especially applied theater techniques, in order to reach the public and get the knowledge of people, of their environment, of their heritage, and to put them and add them to their solution, in order to help them, as Mr. Potts said, to imagine a less affected future. In this kind of action, what was promoted was that they got in a role-playing game or something like a theater, and they propose solutions. First, they have their own perspective about the environment, how they see themselves through climate change, or in climate change, and what their future would be, or what their future they think they could be, and how they want it to be. And that by this theater approach, many solutions came up that mostly are focused on the behavior change of the public, which is something very, very important in order to have the solutions, in order for the solutions to be successful. Of course, this was a small example that happened in Rethymnon, the old city of Rethymnon, in the coastal area of the old city of Rethymnon, but also in Istanbul and a place in Hungary. And in all the cases, what we saw is that solutions and accepting of solutions can be more easily addressed to the public through this way. In this way, we will also give the people we give the voice to the people in order to express their opinion about the solutions that have been implemented and also to propose their view on solutions in order to increase awareness and accessibility of climate actions. This is all for me. We know that we have to add cultural heritage in vulnerability assessments and a way to empower coastal communities to protect the cultural heritage through from climate change is to first of all to change the behavior of the society. And of course, as all the speaker says, that culture is not the victim, a passive victim on this climate change issue, but also can be a very powerful force to foster climate actions through public awareness. This is all for me.
Thank you, George. We keep your point for coastal cultural heritage as a climate solution is a strong point. And I'm now inviting Phoebe Koudouri. I have heard her to present UN strategies, European strategies. Now, Phoebe, we expect our strategy. Please,
Okay, I have a presentation. First of all, I want to thank you, Tonya, very much, Professor Moropoulou, not for inviting me, but for keeping this conference on for the 4th year and making it an institution in terms of discussing very important issues that have to do with cultural heritage. So if I can move my slides, it will be very easy for me, but it will be easier if I have the clicker. But what I will keep it short. And the main message here is the following. Declarations are good. Treaties are even better. Policies, this does not move. So if somebody can help me move it. Yeah. Policies are also very good in mobilizing change. But the important thing, thank you so much. Okay. The important thing to get on the table is how. So, climate change is on the policy agenda of every country in the world. Cultural heritage is also on the policy agenda of every country in the world. What we need to do is to connect them in some explicit policy document, and there are various opportunities for that. But for me, as a scientist and as a leader of possibly the biggest team, the biggest research and innovation team in the world working on sustainability transitions, my job is to offer the how. How are you going to develop the explicit pathways that will allow a society, an economy, to transform towards a climate neutral and a climate resilient world, which will also conserve and sustain cultural heritage monuments and cultural heritage services. There is something called the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation on Aiphoria, on sustainability, that brings together the research institutions that I lead, accelerators, science policy networks, and scientific academies that work exactly on the how. And more explicitly, there is something called the Global Climate Hub of UN SDSN. This is a global network of 2,000 universities under the auspices of the General Secretary of the UN, and I'm chairing the Global Climate Hub of this. What we do here is to explicitly design the transition pathways for all the countries in the world. At the moment, we are working on 120 countries that will lead these countries for where they are today to climate neutrality and climate resilience. And this includes cultural heritage because it cannot be excluded from any resilience pathway, transition, or any even mitigation pathway. So let me quickly tell you what we do here, and then I will just say that if we manage the treaties and the actual explicit connection, interaction, intersection of climate and culture on the policy agenda, then the second step is how we actually manage the transition in explicit pathways, technological policies, and financial in order to conserve cultural heritage while becoming climate neutral and climate resilient. So there are 3 layers in this Global Climate Hub. The first layer studies the different systems that need to integrate in a way that will get you to climate neutrality. Obviously, downscaling the climate systems and integrating into the scenarios of the climate systems over time and across space, the change, the transition of the energy system, of the transport system, on the land use system, including food systems, the marine use system, the health system, and the socioeconomic and cultural system. This is the first layer of mathematical modeling, and it gives you explicit, optimal mixture of policies, technologies, governance transitions, and fiscal and financial instruments that will allow each of these systems to go to climate neutrality and climate resilience while taking into account the trade-offs and the synergies between the systems. This is a holistic pathway, and there is no other way to do this, to get to climate neutrality. The second layer is the blue layer, and is the layer where you put the people in, the other stakeholder. The green layer is the scientific layer, and it's about mathematical modeling. The blue layer that happens simultaneously is the stakeholder engagement and transformative participatory approaches, where we have living labs in each and every country of the world that integrate stakeholder preferences, visions, values, knowledge, fears, risk attitudes into the pathways that we develop. And the final layer is, of course, the digital platform and applications that connects all this modeling and all these living lab results into data. And everybody can access all the data for all these countries into models, into results of models, and the results are made easier for the stakeholder. And when we are talking about stakeholders, we are talking about policymakers, politicians, businesses, financial institutions, civil society, technology developers, everybody that has a say in this transition and has to engage in the transition in order for the transition to be implemented. And at the end of the day, we present tools, visualization dashboards, digital twins, decision support systems aided with virtual reality in order to make it easier for the stakeholders to understand these pathways. So, in a nutshell, we are presenting the results of all these analyses At the next UN Conference for Sustainable Financing in Seville in July, we are presenting in that conference the whole of Europe, each and every country in Europe, 27 countries, the Balkans, the UK, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and China. By UN General Assembly in New York, third week of September, we are going to present all of the countries in the world. And the same will happen at the COP in Brazil. And just to showcase what it entails, this is Greece. And Greece has its climate, the National Energy and Climate Plan, which is about how you proceed with decarbonization. But this is one plan that has to be considered with the common agriculture policy in conjunction with the policies that have to do with maritime, because it's a leading country with regards to shipping. It has the biggest commercial fleet, so it's an important policy, and in conjunction with the Water Framework Directive. So the clue here is that for each and every country, you need to identify, together with the climate and energy plan, all other policies that are important, and transpose them into mathematical modeling and solve all these models together in order to come up with a plan that can be implemented, that will not drive policymakers crazy or ministers crazy because it did not consider the trade-offs and the synergies between the big anchor policies that govern the country. So I'm not going to go through the different systems of modeling, but we have explicit models for the food system, for the energy system, taking into account all sectors in the economy and all energy supply, fuels production processes, and all greenhouse gas emissions. We have biofuel production. We have models identifying land requirements of renewable energy infrastructure. We have climate adaptation models and intervention procedures after disasters. And we have water requirement models and shipping models. And all this is integrated into one solution that you give to the government. And the government knows the few explicit steps that, not few, many, but explicit and clear steps that will allow all the important policies and all the important systems of the country to run together towards a climate neutrality and climate resilience. And we also try to identify the optimal rotation of the implementation of the policies that will allow you to reach your targets, the ones that the country has committed to, with the lowest cost at the earliest time possible. So the first message is that policy is important. The second message is that when you have the policy, you need to mobilize your scientific community in order to give you the pathways. And the pathways need to be holistic and integrated, as explicitly stated in the European Green Deal, but also in the UN Agenda 2030 with the 17 SDGs and the 169 targets, which is transposed into the European Green Deal in terms of European policy. Other regions of the world have their own policy framework. And the last point is that what is important for conservation of any public good or common resource is the acknowledgement of its value as a service to humans. The fact that we conserve private goods has to do that we have an explicit acknowledgement of their value and the explicit right for their use. For natural resources, for cultural resources, this is not the case. Thank God, however, the environmental and natural resource economies across the world, the last 50 years, we have developed methods that allow you to estimate and monetize the value of these cultural and natural services and integrate them into your general equilibrium analysis, which is a computational analysis that allows you to optimally allocate resources. So the message is you can value cultural heritage, both tangible and intangible, movable, immovable, and tradition. We have the framework, we have the methodological framework, we have used it extensively, we have studies in over 85 countries across the globe. And these cultural and heritage values can be explicitly identified, analyzed, estimated, and integrated into socioeconomic models and financial models that allow their explicit sustainment. And to close, I will just showcase some evidence which gives you average values for willingness to pay for different cultural heritage assets. And what is interesting is that you get regional variation between Europe and non-Europe. For example, in Europe, you have higher valuation for tangible assets, monuments, buildings. Outside Europe, you have greater emphasis on intangible heritage. And it is also now another interesting part of the literature, the focus on estimating even spiritual values of ecosystem services, but also cultural monuments and heritage. So it is possible to integrate all this. It is possible to assess the effects of climate change on cultural heritage. It is possible to conserve cultural heritage while you are transitioning to a climate neutrality and climate resilience. It is possible to estimate the cost of this transition, to estimate the benefits, and make the case that the benefits are much bigger than the cost. So in closing, I just want to say we have supported as UNSDSN the 2019 Declaration for Cultural Heritage and Climate Change and Cultural Heritage. I am just back from the Pontifical Academy of Science. Yes, I am concluding. Pope Francis is now going through the Jubilee celebrations during summer. So it is one issue that we discuss, cultural heritage and climate change, and maybe you want to embed the Athens Declaration in the Jubilee year of Pope Francis and the Pontifical Academy of Science.
Thank you very much, Phoebe. Let's remind to all of you that cultural heritage will be kept alive in dialogue with society. To add a final phrase, we don't have any more time. I will ask Andrew Potts, with his experience, to write this paragraph for the Athens Declaration, and all of you, if you want to add one phrase, please feel free to write it down and send it to me, to my mail, to incorporate. So thank you very much for a moving panel, the impact of which is in evolution, I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.